Hi everybody, happy Sunday. I hope that wherever you are and whatever you are doing, you are having an amazing weekend. And guess what? Spring is on the way. See, I've got my first spring shoots are popping through the garden. It's happening in multiple places. There is some mint that is starting to appear that perhaps shouldn't appear yet, but it is. Mr. Ghost is the other side of the garden, so I hope he behaves himself because he has a bit of a reputation for not behaving himself when he's outside. Come on, Ghost! Anyway, the good news is that it's been dry for the last couple of days, which has been great. We do have some nasty weather on the way. Some frost is forecast for next week. It's going to get down to -8, between -8 and -10 at night time, which is kind of cold. That's Celsius, not Fahrenheit, by the way. And we may or may not get some snow. But there have been some interesting things going on in the garden this week, specifically pertaining to the chooks. As you know, my chickens may or may not listen when I give them boundaries, and the chickens have definitely not been listening. They've got in here and scratched this up, which I don't mind, but then they got in here and they scratched up my garlic, which is starting to poke through. I don't think they've done any major damage. They also got into the strawberries. So one of my tasks this year, I think, is to make some chicken-proof enclosures, because there's only so many times that I can tell my chickens no, and anybody who gardens with chickens will tell you that it's an uphill struggle. It's an ongoing battle that I don't necessarily want to have. But the good thing is the chickens have actually managed to even out some of the rough spots in my garden. So yay for chickens, but also boo for chickens at the same time. I honestly don't know. So this plot is almost ready to plant up because the chickens have been so busy. This one is going to need some careful consideration because there are still plants in here that are going to be okay for next year. But again, chickens have done some digging. Ditto for my beans at the end here. I don't know if they're going to survive or not, but if they don't, we've not lost a whole amount. The fact that we are at this point, and I'm not going to have to do a whole lot of digging and preparation before the spring, is a really good thing, because normally at this time of year, everything has grown over, everything is in a mess, and I'm not quite as ready as I am this year. So I'm super excited. The only thing that's starting to worry me is I haven't had a chance to get the greenhouse built yet. And if you remember earlier this year, we said we wanted to build a greenhouse, and it's starting to look like we're just not going to have a chance to. The weather has been terrible from kind of mid-November, or actually mid-October, to now. We've had almost constant rain. This week is the first week we haven't had a lot of rain, and it's really played havoc with our garden preparation. It's been good. Like, if you see the soil here is doing well, and the green grass is starting to grow, which is great for the chickens. But at the same time, everything else is kind of just mud, and that's not been necessarily conducive to us getting out and doing a whole lot of gardening. However, I'm confident that we will be able to change that soon. The grass is definitely not going to be mowable for a long time because it's mostly mud in parts of the garden, but everything else is starting to wake up, and it just feels nice. It's not particularly cold today, as I said, we're going to get some horrible weather coming shortly. And it has given me some kind of thoughts about what I want to grow absolutely this year. So I definitely want to grow tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers, because every year I've been here, something has happened to stop that. either weather or circumstance or whatever. And this year I'm planning on implementing a watering system so that I can ensure that even if I am away, my greenhouse gets watered and the plants are okay. In the past, I've gone away, or my wife has gone away, or we've both gone away, and it's got to a point where we've not been able to keep things properly watered, and that has led us to have some pretty nasty knock-on effects for the garden. So this year I want to be really hot on making sure that the greenhouse has water, to make sure that there's water out here, and maybe to implement some kind of home automation or automated watering system so that I don't lose crops because of the water. Now, last year we had to actually cut back on our watering because our water pump, as we've now discovered, was not working as it should have done. And that meant that we had some issues with the water delivery for the garden. I couldn't have things running, more than one thing running at a time, because our pump would run dry and we'd run out of water pressure. But now I'm pretty sure that the reason behind that was not that we had a low water table, but rather that we had some issues with our with the actual pump. It wasn't providing enough pressure. And now we have this new water pump. I think we're going to be okay. By the way, sorry if I just managed to put my thumb across the screen there like I did a few seconds ago. I was just balancing the camera on the hood of the truck because that's where the truck is parked right now. So I also want to try and do things like watermelons and pumpkins and squashes more this year. And I also want to be, I'd like to double down on the whole parsnips and potatoes and root vegetable thing. I really enjoyed being able to grow my own parsnips and potatoes last year. I didn't get a huge number of them though. So I'm hoping if I can kind of get a jump start on those this year, then I'll be super happy about that. I know that parsnips need to go in fairly soon, so I'm going to start thinking about varieties of parsnips I would like to grow, getting the big tubs ready to receive them, and depending on what we do with this will determine what happens next. I suspect this year money's going to be a little bit tight for the garden with the impending recession and all of this other stuff going on. So I'm going to try and find smart, efficient ways of doing things that don't necessarily require a lot of money, because I think that's ultimately how we're going to keep everything on an even keel. I would also love to grow, I think I'm going to grow fewer crops this year, but maybe grow more of the fewer crops. So, for example, my partner's not a fan of cauliflower, but we both like broccoli, so grow more broccoli. We both like carrots, grow more carrots. We both like beans and peas, grow more peas and beans. And come up with a trellis that actually works so that they actually grow up and we have a better growing situation for them than we did last year, because I know last year there was some issues. The other thing I want to do this year is treat the plots before I start actually growing things, because I think some of that soil has been quite heavily leached and I want to add some extra nutrients. So maybe some well-rotted chicken manure from our compost heap would be one step, and then maybe adding some bone meal and other things just to try and make sure that we can improve the quality of the soil. I think that will improve our yield, especially for things that are very much in need of potassium, like potatoes and tomatoes. There's also a little bit of me this year that would really love to grow the potato-tomato hybrids, because they're from the same family. You could actually graft tomato plants onto potato tubers, and then below ground they're potatoes and above ground they're tomatoes. And I think that would be kind of fun to do as a little experiment. Anyway, let me know what you think we should do. Tell me if spring has arrived in your garden yet. Are you starting to see new shoots break through? Obviously, it's likely to snow at least once more before we get to spring proper. We've still got a couple of months really until spring is really here. But as is always the case, climate is strange, and sometimes we have shorter winters and sometimes we have longer ones. Last year we got heavy snow in the second week of April. So I'm not going to say it's over just yet, because I've been proven wrong in the past. Very much so. So there we have it. That is it for today's video. I hope you'd enjoyed it. If you did like it, you know what to do. And feel free to tip us with a super thanks. Comments are open for your thoughts, as always, as is our Discord chat room. There are links below. If you want to support us more, you can subscribe, hit the bell, and follow the links to take out a YouTube membership or a Patreon subscription. You'll also find links below to our Ko-fi, Bitcoin, and swag store. And check us out on Mastodon, because we do have our own server, which is very awesome. Scrolling on my right is the list of amazing charged up supporters, and shout outs go out to our self-driving tier supporters. They are Mike Weeder, Tony Moss, Linda Irish, Sean Tucker, Patrick Boyarski, Paul Nelson, Chris Maxwell, Brian Newton, Michael Goad, Bennett Elder, Andrew Martin, Pedro Muro Princhero, Brophy Wolf, Chris and Michael Johnson, Tesla in the Gong, Dan Blair, Peter Dillinger, Gordon C, Stephen O'Donoghue, Carl Hodgson, Anthony Coates, Regine Fellows, Denny Hyde, Chris Centaur, and Jim Burness. Finally, out of this world, thanks to our top tier supporters. They are Robert Flannery, CPU Freak 101, Andrew Glenn, Anonymous Freak, JP Fagerback, Joe Bresney, John Lyons, Rory Litwin, Kevin Burridge, Dave Kitchen, Aaron Hahn, Laura Reynolds, Marcel Ward, Matthew Drobnak, Paul Conway, Reggie Watts, Will Graylin, and Ian. I just want to thank all of those of you who have joined up as Patreon supporters in the last week or so. It has really helped us no end. We are looking like we may even be able to do some more fun things and not have to worry about YouTube, which is good because YouTube hasn't really paid us much for the last couple of months. So thank you very much for supporting us. I will be back on this channel with another chicken and garden update very soon. I think Erin may be doing next week's one, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. She doesn't have any chickens, but I'm sure she'll come up with something awesome. And of course, we'll be back on the main channel very soon. Thanks for joining me, and as always, keep evolving.